Welcome to video number 4 for Mrs. Feighery's Chapter 28, Progressivism and the Republican Roosevelt. In the 1908 campaign, Teddy Roosevelt, who was not running again for re-election, chose William Howard Taft as his successor, hoping that he would continue his policies. Taft easily defeated William Jennings Bryan. A surprise came from socialist Eugene Debs, who garnered 420,793 votes. Roosevelt had established many precedents and had helped ensure that the new trusts would fit into capitalism and have healthy adult lives while helping the American people. Teddy Roosevelt protected against socialism, was a great conservationist, and expanded the powers of the presidency, all the while shaping the progressive movement, launching the Square Deal, which was a precursor to the New Deal that would come later. And he opened American eyes to the fact that America shared the world with other nations and that it couldn't be isolationist. William Taft was a mild progressive, very jovial, a heavy man, and very passive. He was also sensitive to criticism and not as liberal as Roosevelt. Taft urged Americans to invest abroad in a policy called dollar diplomacy, which called for Wall Street bankers to invest their surplus dollars into foreign areas of strategic concern to the U.S., especially in the Far East and in the regions critical to the security of the Panama Canal. This investment, in effect, gave the U.S. economic control over these areas. In 1909, perceiving a threat to the monopolistic Russian and Japanese control of the Manchurian Railway, Taft had Secretary of State Philander Knox propose that a group of American and foreign bankers buy the railroads and turn them over to China. Taft also pumped U.S. dollars into Honduras and Haiti, whose economies were stagnant, while in Cuba, the same Honduras, Dominican Republic, and Nicaragua, American forces were brought in to restore order after unrest. In his 4 years of office, Taft brought 90 suits against trusts. In 1911, the Supreme Court ordered the dissolution of the Standard Oil Company. After Taft tried to break apart U.S. Steel, despite Roosevelt's prior approval of the trust, Taft increasingly became Teddy Roosevelt's antagonist. Two main issues at this time split the Republican Party: the tariff and the conservation of lands. To lower the tariff and fulfill a campaign promise, Taft and the House passed a moderately reductive bill. The Senate, led by Senator Nelson Aldrich, tacked on lots of upward revisions, and thus, when the Payne-Aldrich bill passed, it betrayed Taft's promise, incurred the wrath of his party, mostly from the Midwest, and outraged many people. Old Republicans were high tariff, new and progressive Republicans were low tariff. Taft even foolishly called it the best bill that the Republican Party ever passed. While Taft did establish the Bureau of Mines to control mineral resources, his participation in the Bollinger-Pinchot quarrel of 1910 hurt him. In the quarrel, Secretary of the Interior Richard Bollinger opened public lands in Wyoming, Montana, and Alaska to corporate development after they had already been protected. He was criticized by Forestry Chief Pinchot, who was then fired by Taft. Old Republicans favored using the lands for business. New or progressive Republicans favored the conservation and protection of the land. In the spring of 1910, the Republican Party was split between the progressives and the old guard that Taft supported, so that the Democrats emerged with a landslide win in the House. In 1911, the National Progressive Republican League was formed with La Follette as its leader. In February 1912, Roosevelt began dropping hints that he wouldn't mind being nominated by the Republicans his reason being that he had meant no third consecutive term, not a third term overall. Rejected by the Taft supporters of the Republicans, Roosevelt became a candidate for the Progressive Party ticket, shoving La Follette aside. In the election of 1912, it would be Theodore Roosevelt, Progressive Republican, versus William H. Taft, Old Guard Republican, versus the Democratic candidate, whoever that was to be. This is the Works Cited page. All images in this presentation are taken from the public domain.